This is the second of our university series panel, and we have a lovely event planned for you. Tonight, my esteemed colleagues, and of course myself, will be discussing Web3 and also entrepreneurship. I think I'm going to focus a lot more on the entrepreneurship side than the Web3. But nonetheless, with regards to being in the Web3 space, I know many people are still trying to get a handle on this fascinating concept. Web3, the latest iteration of the internet. In hindsight, it's now safe to say Web 1 was read-only. Web 2 created a social web that we could all participate in. And Web 3, it allows the ability to read, write, execute, and most importantly, own. To be honest with you, I believe, and I say to myself every day, what an exciting epoch in humanity. Here we are leading and navigating the future as entrepreneurs. So I will be your moderator. My name is Michael Robinson. I'm an early investor in Bitcoin, a macro trends researcher, and most importantly, the chairman for Oort Foundation. Oort is a decentralized end-to-end data solution. As for my esteemed colleagues and panelists that you see on the screen, Dr. Kai-Min Hu, venture partner at Emergo. Emergo is the official commercial arm and a founding entity of the Cardano blockchain. And then we also have Sam Lin, founding partner at In Capital, a digital forward investment platform driven by deep scientific and technological insights. Gentlemen, welcome to the panel. Was there anything that you all wanted to share about your backgrounds before we begun?
Sam, you want to go first?
Yeah, please. Yeah. Thanks everyone. I think good to join this event to discuss Web3 with all you guys. I'm based in Hong Kong. I actually travel a lot to US as well. I used to be a traditional investment banker, and then I moved into Web3 we incubate, we invest, and we also enable. We work a lot with Oort. I think it's a great honor to be on this opportunity. I think Oort has been building a Web3 infrastructure, which will be very essential for the whole world, the development for the next stage. Yeah, so look forward to the discussion.
Wonderful. And Dr. Kai?
Yeah, sure. Everyone, my name is Kai-Min. I dive into I come from a technical background, and somehow I found the beauty of the transparency and the blockchain that brings empower the new infrastructure for the new revolution. Used to be a shareholder of FTX, but it's not anymore. But it's okay, I think Oort will make my next success. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that, Dr. Kai, and also Sam. I find it very interesting where we are today, right? All of us are in the Web3 space. And what I'm realizing when I step outside the Web3 space, which is our bubble, is that a lot of people have no idea what I'm talking about, right? So to kick things off, I would ask, Sam, in your most practical analogy, what would you describe Web3 as, so we can connect it to those that don't understand?
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, you already mentioned one of the key elements of Web3 is allow you to own, right? So I think that is actually transport power to individual users. It basically, for example, NFT, or you own the NFT, you can take the NFT, take the clothes, take the all this sportswear and all this to every different metaverse, right? And I think it's also important. Like I think people have been talking about Web3, but I think the next stage is really important is to how you use the mass adoption, how you to introduce Web2 user to Web3, right? So I think that is also the technology that allow the Web2 user, like we are now working with all different big players, consumer players, telecom players, right? That they want to break the barrier between different, for example, the points, right? Points for mobile and points for Starbucks and points for others, right? That actually when you have the Web3 infrastructure, they allow you to carry your point to everywhere, right? You're not only not only redeem the points within the one single ecosystem, but you actually allow you to carry them to all the different ecosystem. So I think that actually is the one of the important element of the Web3 that because you own the digital asset. So that means you can transfer, you can trade, you can all this, across the whole world. I think that's really important. And I think the other thing is that the infrastructure, like all you guys have been building, right? If you look at the core, cloud players, right? First is really expensive. Second is not accept, right? When there's a leakage, there's a billions of people's the data, but being leaked, right? Really, you don't really own the data. So, but you guys allow the the infrastructure, the data to be owned and controlled by individual. So I think that is actually also enhance the safety of that the data as well. Yeah.
Agreed completely. I think you nailed it, right? And that's the transferring of the digital collectibles or point system that the average consumer can actually showcase that they own. We just now digitized it, right? So yeah, very practical. And the same question to you, Dr. Kai. In your
Yeah,
most
of course.
technology, yes.
Yeah, of course, of course. So I guess let's think about from another angle, that if you look back into the history, right? If we call Web 0 is basically like electricity grid, oil pipe, water pipes, and also like maybe telephone, radio could become in that. Either say the government or the country, that they build all those infrastructure under the ground, and then at the home we are able to using all those all those appliances, all those electricity things to plug in and use it. That was the first generation of doing startup entrepreneur, right? Then on the second, say coming to Web 1 or Web 2 era, it comes out with the modem, with the internet, that comes out another bunch of entrepreneur that comes with Facebook, with Google, because they're the application layer on top of the internet layer, right? Now it comes to something we call Web3. It's basically that another layer of decentralized application, or say more transparent application, relies on the blockchain as the infrastructure. So I would say, if we analogy for the Web3, I would say it's basically by leveraging blockchain technology and blockchain product as the just think about that was like electricity or pipe under the ground that we build from that.
That's incredible. Yeah, and that's giving from I would say background to where we are today.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next question, right? We've missed the steam engine, obviously. And for many people like myself, I missed out on the internet, right? Now we have this Web3 opportunity. What could Web3 mean to this generation of students? That right. What would you say, Dr. Kai?
Oh yeah, of course. I think this generation of the students are actually not born, like graduating all about when everybody in this world about to recognize and realize the value of Web3 and the blockchain. It's a good opportunity for them to dive and find their career into that, because think about the Web 2 or Web 1 pyramid is already settled, right? It's very hard to find the ladder to find the ladder from the bottom to top in those opportunities. There still is, but majority of the younger generation, if you look at the Wall Street bets and those NFT kids, right? All those, hype kids, pretty much, all they are, 100%, dive into, the Web3 build. No matter, you call it, it looks like, street gangster, or you call it legit, but everything, all the system, every system, coming from disorder to ordered. So you folks are actually graduating on the middle, on the transaction on the middle of, from disorder to ordered. So this is a great time for you to dive in and take the rocket ship to the sky, because the sky is the limit, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sam, did you want to follow?
Yeah, I think it's actually, whenever there's a new revolution, right? It's a big opportunity for people coming from behind, right? If you look at the internet is basically you see a lot of big players dominate the place, right? And then I think most of the new generation now is born, and also they live in the digital world, right? So the Web3 allow you to own your own asset. The Web3 allow you to create your own asset. Right? The Web3 to allow you to catch up from behind. I know a young kid, right? He worked in one of my company, right? And then he basically because this is traditional financial world, right? He cannot make too much money, but then he bought this NFT from very low price, right? And Koya app and all this, right? He suddenly he owns this, and then he make more than his multiple annual salary, right? So I think that is actually give you another opportunity to really own your asset and make a fortune. But I think more importantly is actually you experience the the new thing, experience the revolution. So that give you a lot of possibility. Apparently a lot of challenge as well. Look at some of the stuff, right? But it's actually a great new place for you to be in, right? So give you more option and more opportunities. Yeah.
You know what I realized when I went to college, I was more so into being an entrepreneur, but it was very limited opportunities for me to actually learn from or hear from entrepreneurs, right? Specifically now in like Web3, which is fantastic that we're having this conversation, this discussion, because that could be a bit esoteric. And I'm glad we have two really strong entrepreneurs in their respective areas to actually speak to. So to start things off, right, is there any kind of advice that either of you would give to students about pioneering nascent technology?
Pioneer. Oh, you mean this Web3 technology, right?
Yeah, to drive the tech, like whether it's AI, whether it's blockchain.
Right. Yeah, I would. Sorry, I want to. Probably I'll take the first the first position on this. I think besides whatever the school, the university taught you, you can always spare some spend some spare time on the new technology revolution, and no matter it's AI or it's blockchain, because the more skill you have, the more opportunity that you have you're open to in the future, right? So I would say not all the university already have those blockchain cores. That me, like myself, I didn't have any blockchain course back in 2016 17, except Princeton has something to talk about talk about psychology, right? Cipher, yeah. I everything all the knowledge I built is all coming from my outside learning, yeah, and also reading those white papers. I think it is always nice that to chase on the new technology and see what's the mathematic thing, what's the mathematical, what's the logic, what's the use case behind those, so that we can always inspire our idea to another level, and of course for the future entrepreneurial projects. That I think that would be super helpful, because not every university have those courses. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. I just to supplement, I think this is very important to learn from people, right? There's a lot of start by students, students who haven't haven't graduated, right? And also there's a lot of from your your schoolmate and from alumni, right? So I think it's very important to also learn from people. I think that's one of the quickest way. Sit down with some entrepreneurs, sit down with some startups, sit down with some really strong technologies. Yeah, so I think that is actually one of the most effective way for me to learn the new technology. When I came from traditional financial world to fintech, and then fintech to Web3, right? I think I organize all the different type of event here in Hong Kong. When Max is here, from Oort is here, he also joined my event. So I think really that is a very effective way to learn from smart people. Yeah.
So Sam, I'm intrigued. I would like to know, right, what brought you into entrepreneurship? What was the impetus? Like, what happened? Did you always, or were you always an entrepreneur to start?
Not really. I start as my career as an investment banker, right? So Credit Suisse, Barclays, all this, right? So I've been investment banker for more than 14 years. Quite a good job. You fly business, 5-star hotel, and my performance is always, I don't need to worry about my performance at all here in Asia, right? There's I always keep up, deliver good result. But then at some point I think, oh, this is kind of boring and kind of wasting some of my life, because as an investment banker, you need to be aggressive enough to compete with your other competitors, and then you spend a lot of time in terms of arguing, fighting whether the bank's logo need to be on the left, not on the right, this type of silly thing. And then you spend a lot of time on the compliance and internal issues. Not because compliance is not good. We need to have all the line, right? Compliance and regulation is very important. But after the financial crisis, there's a lot of procedure, right? It's basically too much procedure, to just make sure things right. But you spend a lot of time on things not really create value. And then I think, okay, probably it's time for me to really look outside from the investment banking world to really start something new, right? To build something, right? To create value. So I think that, and then I go to fintech, with some startup, and then Web3 as well. I think Web3, when I start to explain Web3, I don't really know much about that, right? So, but I think it's kind of the things that I think the trend is right, and then things you don't really understand, maybe that makes things more interesting, and that means more potential, right? If you can see some business model very clear from day one, maybe not, maybe if maybe that is not, that it has limit, right? If you see something very interesting, but you see, oh, I have a lot to learn, I don't really know how this is going, right? That's probably something if would have great potential, but that also means risk, right? So I think being in a startup, being in Web3, that means you also need to take risks. But I think for students, is you guys always you are very young, right? So it's always to better to take risks, when in your early stage of a career, and then you try, and then you succeed. Yeah.
Fantastic advice. I got the same from my mentor, who was 47 years my senior, and he was the one that convinced me to leave the corporate world to actually jump into, at the time we were doing large international infrastructure finance, and this was an apprenticeship that he convinced me to do. And it was just mind-blowing because of the amount of stuff we learned, right? Which was outside of what was taught in school. Dr. Kai, the same question to you as well. What brought you onto your entrepreneur journey?
I totally agree with Sam that make mistake under controllable risk that makes grow. I actually started my career after graduation from college. I started my first startup because that was back in 2010. It was, back in that time, there's, a lot of, entrepreneur hype on the smart hardware, right? Like a smart lamp, smart home, and those stuff. Uh, that startup was used to building smart home system, because I figured out that if you're building one all small components instead, why don't we just building a hub that make that other make the protocol, right? Just like these days make the protocol that allowing other compliances to join such a protocol. I mean, there's always a lot of mistake that I made, doing those journey. But from those mistake, I do learn as a entrepreneur what to avoid to dive into the wrong direction, and it teaches me how to get around with people, how to be with people, how to like how to be with engineer, how to be with how to working with business people, how to working with VC, blah blah blah. All these are very, I would say, beautiful experience. I mean, it's painful for sure. You will meet painful, if you go entrepreneur for sure. You will meet a lot of questions, just like running a startup, just like running your life. It's the same thing. You'll face into a lot of painful and also exciting moment. But that's life. That's why that's why we are here, right? So from those, I actually collected a bunch of methodology, or say or say the ways that how to build a product, how to build the team, and how to build how to maintain relationship with VC. So that's why later on I changed my career path from software engineer to fully like product director. Then now like more on the VC side, because from my point of understanding, being a VC, I can not. It's not just giving money to your give money to your portfolio, right? You give them guidance, advisory, and teach them how to build the team. Because majority of the young like entrepreneur, it's their first time. They need they need people to guide them and to avoid such a say a potential hazard that moving forward, right? So if you look at the FTX case, right? Sam, this is like his first time doing SBF. Okay, not GSM, sorry. SBF, right? So it's it is his first time being an entrepreneur. Previously, he was totally a trader, but it's his first time being a decision maker, being a a company, a huge corporation decision maker, and being a CEO. He obviously will make mistake, because there's so many things happening that he never explored that before, right? So that's why I'm saying, like from my perspective, I will not only just give the money to my portfolios, but also the advice and the guidance, see how we can make the project cycle goes healthy, because after this project there may be another project that we can work on together, right? We make friends. Yeah.
I completely agree. Sam, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I think that is because there's the web, this industry is new, right? All the stuff with the risk. I think it's just important you choose the right direction, and it's also very important to choose the right people, right partner, and just try it, right? You sometimes you cannot think about too much, but think about whether it is something you want to commit to, because apparently the industry is still at early stage. There's a lot of exciting things going on, but there's also a lot of challenging, a lot of risk, like FTS you mentioned. I actually know those people very well as well. They start from Hong Kong, right? So, yeah, I know some of the people, yeah, from Hong Kong very well. So, but it's there will still be things like this, right? Yeah, even look at the traditional financial world, right? If you look at the demon, and look at all this, right? The things will happen, right? But I think just you just go and try it if you believe this is the industry you want to be in. If this believe this is a journey that you want to experience, yeah.
That's absolutely correct. You have a 50-50 shot of making it successfully, whatever you commit your mind to, or 100% lose rate if you don't actually commit yourself to something, right? So as an entrepreneur, these are the things, the lessons that we've experienced that keeps us pretty sharp.
Yeah.
You know what? I think every time I meet entrepreneurs or people that are, just working for themselves, I always ask, what are the most important habits or three most important habits for each of you that you think a successful entrepreneur should have? Like traits, characteristics, or habits that they need to develop to be successful as business owners.
Yeah, maybe I can start first. I think that I start in with a number of other co-founder and partners. If you look at from website, you can see they came from often different background, very strong background. We have people who are one of the top 50 women in tech globally. We have people who manage multi-billion hedge fund, right? We have people who are very strong in technology. I think it's really important, for if you want to start a startup, you want to be an entrepreneurship. I think first, very important that you need to choose the right partner, right? You need to have a team, right? Because you cannot be a single man, right? So I think that is very important that you have the ability to attract talent who can work with you, right? You need to be open-minded. You need to be more open, and you need also to accommodate people from different background, different characters. I think that is very important that you need to have the leadership to build a team. I think that's very important first. Second, I think important that you need to be very focused, right? We are now facing some challenge because we know many people, right? So there's a lot of people coming to us. A lot of people want to work with us, right? Also, I think so we need to be very disciplined, right? We need to focus what we're trying to build or focus on try, because there's always opportunities, right? I think if you look at Chinese entrepreneur, there are many entrepreneurs, they build a business very big, and then they go to do real estate, they go to do in commercial mall, they also do others, and then get leverage, and then they bump up, so that I think the focus is very important, that know where you're going. Certainly, I think it's very important to you need to be very mindful of change, right? It's basically there will things happen that you cannot. For example, you mentioned FTX. We have some a company that work with the FTX is almost it's almost a done deal, right? And then suddenly the FTX disappeared, right? When I also start, I also have people start when I was in university, and we have a team of 4 person, 4 founders, and then at the time I think that's the 2000, there's an incubator. At the time there's not many VC, and then the incubator they invest us, and then when they want to put more money, their investors pull up investment to them as well, so they don't have money. And then they don't have things to work to invest on us. So then we have to. And at that time it's very tough, right? Apparently we we 4 founders apparently find a good job. So then we didn't continue with the start. But there's a lot of things that will happen that out of your control. So you need to be very mindful of change.
Thanks, Sam. And Dr. Kai, yourself?
Yeah, of course. I totally agree with Sam that leadership and focus. So I will skip these two and talk about something else. Other 3 characteristics that I think are most important for entrepreneur. Like the reason why say focus is very important is that like we all have lots of different ideas, and we all want the thing going big and going full, right? Going full, but it really takes it is really time consuming. So I would say focus on one vertical instead of saying like I want everything. That's that's not reasonable, right? So the first character I think for very important for entrepreneur is reasonable, right? This world belongs to decentralized, populations, right? It doesn't belong to you. So it doesn't mean you can command, if you be an entrepreneur, get some, money from VC, it doesn't mean you can command everything to follow the way as the way you want. So you have to be realistic and reasonable for everything happens inside the company and outside the company, and make the right decision when those things happen. I mean, make the reasonable and the correct decision based on the current situation, right? You can't against all the things happening. For example, I can't against the FTX thing, right? So I have to just be reasonable and be So that was the I would say the first characteristics. The second I would say is like close the loop, right? For example, that me myself, that I try to reply, or I try my best to reply all the email, or the Telegram, or the Slack, or the WeChat, every message channel during my wake up time. Because when some people send you a message, except those scammers, okay, let's not talk about scammers. My clients, if they send me a message, I have to reply them with the same day, because I know they're under their ongoing something. I don't want to being a hang around, being like hang up person for those things, right? So I would say close the loop would be the second characteristics I think an entrepreneur should have. Lastly, which is humble. I do see a lot of entrepreneur, also startup companies, when they made a little achievement, or they made a little bit say small glory, or ranking all those stuff, they started feel like they're already on the moon, and looking at everybody, just like looking people on the ground, being very, very cocky. That's actually very bad, because in our current the market situation, or the current world, everything changed very fast, because now we have internet, and all the information delivery is different. It is different from the 30-40 years ago. Before 30-40 years ago, one iteration of the luck, or say the trend, it might take decades, even 10 years and 30 years. But now the swift of the luck and the swift of the trend might only take 2 to 3 years. But we all will live longer than 2 to 3 years, right? So I do know some entrepreneur that a couple of years ago, when they see me being very cocky, and now they're nothing. So lastly, I really want to say be humble. No matter what achievement you made, or no matter what like money you get money from Sequoia, you get money from Dragonfly, you get money from whatever capital. Be humble. Don't be like, yeah, I'm like the king. Never be that. Yeah.
Well said, gentlemen. And I have experienced that, just as you said, Dr. Kai. Be humble is key. So you mentioned trends. I want to know, how do you stay on top of like industry trends at the moment?
That's a very great question. I would like take that in a psychological way, that in our human beings nature, also human being deeply inside the gene, there's something we called oh, I forgot the name, but that's basically something hold on a second, let me quickly Google it. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Should
Yeah,
we
give me
have
a second.
Sam answer while you're looking it up?
Yeah, I think the Web3 when it's still at early stage, so changed significantly. Change. You can see that there's a 3 months and then a 6 month. It's not really like a Web2 and Web1, right? Things happen much quicker. So you cannot always bet on the right train. NFT, maybe 1 year ago it's very hard, and then the 3 months, and then it go away, and then you go back again, and all this way. I think the apparently there's a lot of speculative, in short-term driven event in the industry. But I think the really the big trend and the real trend is that how you use the Web3 technology and methodology and business model to add value and to transform Web2 that really build something with a value like like what you guys have been doing, right? Storage computing is always a demand there, right? What you do is how you make the data safer, how you make the cost lower, right? Instead of chasing the NFT, this art, that art, and all this fancy things, right? I think it's time to build now, right? I think that if you look at the past couple of years, more about I would say 90% or 95% of project have died, right? Because they just sometimes they can be very successful, like step in, right? But now it's basically it goes nowhere. So I think again you need to the basic business logic is the same, right? Whether you can add value, whether you can create something new, whether you can lower the cost, increase efficiency, whether you can allow something to transform, right? I think stick to the real business logic, to try to build something really important. And then look at the technology trend, right? Look at what kind of technology, new technology are there. And use them or create new one. Don't chase short-term trend. You will go away, right?
Absolutely. I mean, just like you said, last I checked, and this was mid-year of 2022, over 20,000 projects died. That was last year, which goes back to how do you identify or stay on top of industry trends? So thank you very much for that, Sam. And I believe Dr. Kai, you've found the word. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I come back with the word. Yeah. So I mean, it's actually very good, Sam, to make first, because what I'm trying to say is exactly like don't follow a trend and don't chase on trend, but you can also predict it, right? Because what I was previously trying to represent is if we happen to know like a phrase called a collective unconscious by Carl Jung, right?
Wow.
Everything inside our gene, everything back into the history are, it's not like, happen. It doesn't happen in a random way. It happens in a certain way. For example, pyramids, right? Every location have different pyramids, but back in, many thousand years ago, even millions of years ago, the humans, they don't even talk to each other. They don't know what's the trend, but somehow they, build pyramids. They build, those, they try to fly. They try to, mock like bird to fly because they want to explore. That's something, hidden or say, deep inside in our gene that everything goes as the way the history creates, right? So when we say to like predict, the trends or to predict, what's going to happen as the next trend is, we can use analogy and a similar terminology to explore back in the history, how does those application built on infrastructure was made previously. For example, on a Steam, right? They have car first, the vehicle first, then steam driven machine, all kinds of those appliances happening. It's all because people are trying to make a tool to replace the repeated labor, right? And now no matter say Web2 or Web3, all the tool that we create is to make the human transaction, make the liquidity more efficient. That's why we build those things. So in my sense that based on the current trend, we can by doing some analogy and analytics to predict what is the potential next trend would be, so that we can step on the fast lane by some chance.
Very interesting, psychological as well, or perspective, right? Thank you for that. I noticed that we're running out of time. We're at 6:40 at the moment. I think we can ask another question, one last question, before we jump into Q&A from the audience. So let me ask you all this. You know, Web3, very esoteric. We're all basically just driving this space, you know, with blindfolds on because of regulations. We really don't understand what's going on at, you know, government level, especially in the US. So some controversies that are surrounding the space that you all are currently combating, and these challenges, like what, first off, would you say is a good jurisdiction for someone to actually start a project, a Web3 project?
Yeah, you know, I would say Hong Kong. You know, I think that there's last year, the year before, many people go to Singapore, in the US, Dubai, right? But I think a lot of people coming to Hong Kong now. I think because first, apparently Hong Kong has very open-minded government now to Web3. Hong Kong has announced they want to be a digital asset center, right? You know, for the world, right? The people from different part of government, they also are supportive, right? And then you know, the government is now issuing different type of regulation. You know, the Hong Kong MA, you know, kind of like the central bank also finished a consultation on the stable coin, all the others, right? SFC, you know, like SEC in the US, they have been, you know, let's say they also, you know, going to issue, you know, all the regulation for how to issue the license, and they are also, you know, is also on the way to open up to retail investors, right? If you look at, you know, Singapore, they're shutting down, right? And then and look at US, there's a lot of debate on that as well, right? So Hong Kong, I think, is really, from regulation perspective, I think there's no issue before in Hong Kong, right? So they don't have the history burden. So they're really, you know, very open-minded, the government, and then and you know, they also issue a lot of favorable policy and also support. And then you know, Hong Kong itself is apparently international financial center, and then they also issue a lot of policy for talents, right? Now it's very easy for you to apply for visa or for working visa. It's very difficult before, right? It's very difficult before because so many people want to come, right? And then the government also have their own investment fund. They have the incubator and all the others. I know, you know, quite a number of company, big companies, including exchange. They're talking to the government and about the license and about thinking about moving the headquarters from Singapore to Hong Kong as well. So, and then there's also, you know, they're also, compared to Singapore, they also looked up supply of, you know, talents and technique people as well. And apparently, I think funding is also, there's also quite a number of VC fund here. So I do think Hong Kong is probably, in general, is probably one of the, probably, if not the best, but probably just, yeah, or probably, you know, at this moment for Web3 startups, right? And
you're currently based in Hong Kong, correct?
Yeah, I'm currently based in Hong Kong. You know, there's going to be, you know, there's a Web3 forum held before. A lot of people coming. There's another one. I think we expect there's 10,000 to 20,000 people coming to the Web3 you know, conference. And not only that, but also very big company. They are now there's some very big large companies, Web2 companies, technology and all the others. They are, you know, they are in the process of you know, forming a Web3 alliance. It's all formed by very big company and also Web3 companies. It's not only Web3 companies, right? Because if you look at all the other Singapore, US, you know, you don't see Vodafone say I want to be a Web3 alliance, right? But here you will see, it's not announced yet, but you will see very big company backing Web3 from Hong Kong.
That's fantastic insight. I think we need that as well. I'll be looking deeper into what's going on in Hong Kong. Many Americans I'm speaking of. That being the case as well, Dr. Kai, any favorable jurisdiction that you would recommend that you're looking into?
I would say as long as okay, maybe just go to Binance and see which of those countries Binance doesn't support. Then avoid those countries, to open in the to open jurisdictions, to open your own company. But in other words, that you can feel free, to choose where you want to live in the future. That majority of the US, those US entrepreneurs, they move to Singapore, they move to Hong Kong, they move to Thailand, to have, because this industry, majority of the people that working remotely, right? You can have engineers on another time zone that basically, as long as you commit the code to the GitHub to build, it's completely fine. So as long as I would say, as long as the place is not under too much trouble jurisdiction, and as long as that place have a very convenient traffic, say if you want to, you probably have a face-to-face meeting with some VC or whatever. I think it's an excellent choice based on your personal selection on the local culture, local food, and local local stuff that you like. Yeah, to make your life work-life balance, right?
Right. That's everything. Work-life balance.
We have a best food in Hong Kong.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Hong Kong is the the best food paradise. Yeah.
In your location, Dr. Kai?
San Francisco Bay Area.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So we're in
Lovely
America.
place.
Okay, there's one quick question that I wanted to ask each of you before I started the Q&A, and I'm just realizing it. Is there like a niche in Web3 that you're currently watching, or a project that you all are currently watching that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think in addition to infrastructure, you guys are working on, right? Working on. I think this NFT is really a good place. I believe that NFT, you will be very easier for Web2 user to get into, right? But when I talk about NFT, I think NFT has much broader uses just compared to just just the portrait, right? It's not about, but it's also apply NFT to consumption scenario like a Starbucks, right? What they are doing. I think Standard Chartered announced they're going to have a NFT wallet. So I think that is actually is one of the I think it's one of the best user to adopt, to have mass adoption. I think that's a mass adoption. It really is the next trend, right? So I think NFT GameFi is a big, but too many players. I think it's very crowded, right? And then security, right? I think if you look at all these issues happening in the industry, security safety is apparently a very very big issues. And I actually also really focus on project or trends or things that can bring mass adoption to Web3, because they're still, we don't have enough users, right? It's still at the early stage. So if there's a project that can bring mass adoption to Web3, I think that is very important. So I think we always look at project that is, yeah.
Wonderful. And Dr. Kai?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, Sam. I think I have a similar taste as as you mentioned. But one thing that catches my eye, which is for me, instead of investing into different GameFi projects or say NFT projects, I feel like those NFT or GameFi aggregator actually very very helpful, because that is something we call the hub, right? On the Web2, the hub are Google, Yahoo, maybe it's too old, Yahoo, and Facebook, that the entrance of the internet, or say the entrance of your first insight that to explore the new things. So I think for Web3, or say for the blockchain industry, aggregator is still, will be the essential needs for the human being that to interact with other, projects, other, decentralized DApps or other, DID, decentralized ID, or say other personnel in the space. So I kind of, bet big on the hub and aggregators.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm seeing that we have 10 minutes left. This has been very insightful so far. We've got around 13 questions that has came in, and I want to make sure that we get some of these answered. So, okay. First question from Chabani, MT. How can novice entrepreneurs assess market needs and develop strategic plans for business growth? Who wants to take that question?
Yeah, I'm now incubate one of the project, right? An NFT project. I spend a lot of time in on the product itself, because I think it's really important that you think through that whether this is a real demand or a big demand, right? Because some of the if you look at the the project from Web2, right, and then we need to think about how I can add value from Web3, right? Because some of the demand, you don't necessarily need to have the Web3, technology or uses, right? You don't necessarily need to have NFT, but if you have NFT on that, why NFT add value? Why NFT where things different? And whether this is real demand, right? Where this is, and where this will change things, right? And or it's just a moderation, right? Or it's just you add some feature on it, right? It's good to have, good to have is not a real demand, right? And then when you start something, then you will find that when you put things in marketing, spend a lot of money, then you find, oh shit, this is not something that people really need, right? So I think that's important. And then the other is how big is the demand, right? I think this is how you need to assess how big is the demand, whether it is a mixed market or it's just a niche market. It's okay to just focus on niche market, right? You be something small but beautiful. It's also okay, right? You can sell it to big players, but it's also very important that you need to see whether if you're doing your budget, if you're building a team, if you're doing that, then you also very important that you see how big the demand is, right? Apparently people want to build something with a great demand, right? Like Oort, right? You take all example, for storage, cloud, and all, apparently very big demand. The challenge is whether you can persuade people to transfer from Amazon and others to this infrastructure, right? So I think that is the second thing, whether it's a big demand or it's a big demand, and whether you can fulfill the demand, right? Whether is it too early, it's right on timing. That is also very important as well. Yeah.
Very good. So there's another question that came in from the perspective of investment. How do you judge whether it's a good Web3 project? Dr. Kai?
I would say in three ways. One is, as previously Sam mentioned about that, find the niche and essentialness of the product that they're trying to deliver to the market, because every product, every DApp is trying to resolve an issue for a human being, right? They don't need something like facelifting, but they do need something essential tool to resolve their issue or the current problem. That's one. Second, I think, is the team, right? We need a reasonable and realistic team that to build the product together, right? Last part I would say is the deliverables, right? Because you can have lots of idea, but you have to deliver it out, right? If you cannot deliver it out, then nothing's gonna happen on the marketing side, right? Then you need you have to deliver a product, you do operation, you do marketing, you do campaign, blah blah blah. There are many things you have to do to make your project success in the Web3.
Very good.
Yeah, it's a long story. It's a long story. It's a long story.
I can imagine. I actually have another Web3 entrepreneur question, which is what are the best practices that Web3 entrepreneurs can follow to attract investors?
Dr. Kai, you want to continue? Yeah.
No, take your Sam.
Okay. So Mike, so what your real question is how to attract investors, right?
Yes.
You know, apparently it's a very tough market now, right? It's not like 1 year ago, like, you know, a lot of project you can just find funding easily. I think now is that, you know, investor look at, you know, whether this is you know, really innovation thing, right? First thing, you know, whether you have a very strong team, whether you can have the max adoption, and then also whether you are cheap enough, right? That is also you see a lot of downrun, you see a lot of issues. So apparently it's not a good timing for startup. I think a lot of startup we see have a lot of issues. Yeah, I think that's you know, that is very tough to attract investor at this moment. But so it's very important that you need to have really, you know, strong team, very clear vision, business model, and also people need to now. I think it's not only you know, a vision right now. I think people also will ask about your revenue model. You know, how you add value, right? Cash flow, right? You know, things people don't really ask at the bull market. Yeah.
Very insightful. Thank you for that, Sam. I've got a little lengthy question. It might take up much of the hour, but I'm going to ask anyways because I see it's interesting. Would you guys suggest looking at where things are going, brackets 5 to 10 years, not where they are, in order to better build forward to meet future demand? Is there such a thing as too early of a mover in a space?
I think, you know, to be honest, I met a lot of, you know, great ideas. But it doesn't mean those ideas are fit, you know, the current market, or say fit, you know, the current, you know, Web3 human needs. So I would say, before, you know, diving into any idea or, you know, trying to build any project, make sure that, you know, we understand, we understand like where we are and where we will be going. So for human essential, for human beings essential, there are actually, you know, several things. One is, you know, dopamine, right? Second is, you know, I don't want to say it here, but, you know, it's something about, you know, like, you know, betting, right? Thirdly, which is, you know, entertainment, right? Which is entertainment here, like, you know, like a game, like, you know, other kind of entertainments. These are, you know, the most of 3 essential things for human being, besides eating and sleeping. Okay, you know, study is, you know, another, you know, another degree of, you know, the question. So when you know, trying to build, you know, anything, you kind of want to make sure, you know, if it's necessary to meet all, you know, human being needs, right? Still back to, you know, to the top, to that you know, topic.
Very good. Well, thank you for that, Dr. Kai. One last question. What do you guys think of digital economic zones? Is this a better choice to incorporate with one of there, or is it still too early to tell? Digital economic zones.
Digital economic thought, what does that mean?
So it's kind of like an economic zone that's specific to technology.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Sid, go for it. Yeah, I'll let you go.
Yeah.
Your insights are very helpful.
I'm guessing this is maybe like some area, you know, like in Hong Kong, you have Cyberport,
Yeah.
right? You know, they all check Web3.
Yeah.
They give incentive, right? And then they also have investment for startup company going to. They give sometimes they give free doing, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things like this in Hong Kong. Apparently, I think there's hundreds of Web3 company already come to that to apply for subsidy, rank, investment. Yeah, they apparently, you know, good place like this in Hong Kong, and it's good to be in there because, you know, you see a lot of Web3 company in the same zone, and some of them maybe can be a customer, can be a partnership. all can just have share with you on some, technology, trend, and then people, can be together every day. So I think it's good to have to be in that zone. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're at the hour. I think this was a fantastic, insightful conversation. I want to thank Rice University for allowing us to host this panel. And then also my colleagues, Sam, Lynn, and Dr. Kai. Thank you all very much for participating today. Is there any social media handles that, or any way that the community can get in touch with you all? You can feel free to drop, handles in the group chat, the Zoom chat.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, sure. I'll put that in. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can imagine they're really impressed by the answers that you've given, plus your expertise and background. So fantastic. That being said, we want to thank everyone for giving us an hour to listen in on our panel. Oort, on behalf of Oort, we thank you as well, and we look forward to the next University Series panels. Everyone, have a good night and a good morning. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.